Hello, today we're going to be setting up ImGui with SDL2. An example of what we're going to end up with is here. We have a couple different implementations of this, or a couple different reasons why I'd want to use it. I have an SDL2 rendering to a texture that is then put inside of an ImGui frame. We have just a simple ImGui frame here, and then we have SDL rendering behind ImGui and SDL rendering in front of ImGui. Let's get started. Quick note. I believe in either the title or the description I'm going to put this. It is a Windows-specific setup, but only for SDL2. If you have SDL2 set up for Mac OS or Linux or whatever you want, the ImGui part of this is not platform-specific. It is cross-platform. So if you have your SDL2 already set up, skip to this timestamp, and you should be perfectly fine. If you do need SDL setup and you aren't on Windows, I'd recommend looking at some other tutorial and then coming back to this for the ImGui part. Okay, so the first part is to set up a project. I have an open folder open inside of our VS Code here. It's just an empty folder. I'm going to make some folders here to stay organized. We want a build folder. So I'm going to do make directory build folder, and that's where our executable is going to live after it's compiled. We're going to make an include folder. This is where all of our external header files are going to be located. I'm going to make a lib folder. This is where all of our external static library files are going to be located. I'm going to make a source folder, and this is where all of our source files that we make are going to be located. I'm also going to make an ImGui folder, and this is going to be where our ImGui source files are going to be located because we're actually going to be baking ImGui into our own project here. And then one more thing, I'm just going to create an empty makefile just to get ahead of ourselves here. Empty makefile. Now we need to download our external dependencies. To start off, I have a link to SDL2. SDL2 here has a ton of different options. I'm going to be compiling with a simple makefile using GCC, so I want this SDL2 devil mingw.zip. I'm going to download that. While we're on this note here, if you do not already have mingw set up or make setup, there is documentation in the description. It is just way too much to be setting up the compiler and setting up make before this, so I'm kind of assuming you already have it set up. If you don't, then just follow those and come back to this. Okay, so now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and throw it in our project. Go ahead and extract your SDL.zip into a folder, and it should have some sort of like SDL folder inside of it. Go ahead and open that as well, and you'll see a couple things. You'll see all this sort of files here, and then you'll see an i686 and then an x86 folder here. We want the x86_64 because if we open the install text document, it says the 64-bit files are in x86_64, and I want the 64-bit files. So I'm going to open that. Then we have a bin, lib, include, and share here. The bin is where our dynamic link libraries are going to be, so I'm going to just throw those into our build folder. If you don't know what those are, they're basically part of a library that needs to be alongside the executable when it is running. Next one is the lib folder. These are the static library files. These actually get injected into your project when you're compiling here, so we just highlight all of these and throw them into our lib folder. And maybe you can guess, this include folder, we'll just open it up and we'll take everything from this include folder and throw it into our own include folder. That is going to be all of our external headers for SDL2. Now let's set up a way to compile this. So I'm going to be organized and neat with my compiler here, and I'm going to set up a project name equal to project. I'm going to set up an output directory here. I'm just assigning basic, basic simple variables here. So output directory is going to be in our build folder. I'm going to set up, let's say, our include directories here. It's just going to be into I, and then I'm going to specify SDL2. So you do this prefix dash uppercase I to specify an include directory. Now we want our lib directories here, so libdirs, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to do capital L to specify that it is a library directory. And I'm just going to put lib for our lib folder here. Next thing we want to do is we want to actually specify which libs or static library files we want to have in this project. So I'm going to put our libs here, and for this, just follow along here. For this compilation process, we're doing mingw32 and then L SDL2 main and then -L and then SDL2, and that should be it, I believe. Okay, so after defining the libs here, we need to define our source files. So I'm going to say our source files, or just source, is going to be equal to, I'm going to use two wildcards. So wildcard source/all.cpp. This is going to grab anything inside of our source folder if it exists. I'm also going to use another wildcard, and this is going to be going inside of our ImGui and then just grabbing all the CPP files here. Of course, there's nothing in there here now, so there's no reason to do this right now, but it's just forward thinking. Now I'm just going to do our default command, which will just execute if we provide no additional arguments to our make command, and I'll run g++ to compile it. I'll use our source variable by using the $sign and then encapsulating it in parentheses. I will specify our output to our output directory / our project name. And then I will tack on the include directories, and I will tack on the lib directories, and then I will tack on the libs themselves. This is kind of the basic structure of a makefile if you haven't seen one before. That should all work. Let's go ahead and make sure it works by creating a simple source file. I'm going to create a main.cpp. This is where our entry point is going to live. I'm going to include SDL.h, create an int main, and then whenever you use SDL, you have to provide these arguments to main. So int argc, char argv, and then just return 0. And let's see if it compiles. So if we open up our terminal here and we just run make, we have a fatal error, no such file or directory. And the reason is because I put it inside of its own folder, SDL2. So let's just go to our makefile, and let's say the include directory is include, and then it has to be include /SDL2. I forgot to add that include in there. Now if we run make, we also have a typo here where it should be ImGW32. Whoopsies. Now if we run make, it does compile. Awesome. We have a little executable. Let's go ahead and open a window with this since we're going to need to do that anyways. So what we're going to run is we'll just run if, and then we need to do SDL2 or STL init, and we'll do STL init video. And then if it's less than 0, we just want to return -1. And then we need to create a window. So SDL window, and I'm going to call my window pointer SDL create window, and SDL create window. And then here's going to take a ton of arguments. So just a window. I'm going to do SDL window pause centered, and I'm going to make that for both the X and the Y. And then I'm going to make mine 600 by 400 width, and I'm going to say SDL window shown. This is not required, but it's just being explicit to make sure you actually do show the window. And then we can just do some error handling. So if the window pointer does not exist, that means that we failed. Or if the window pointer is a null pointer, this will evaluate to true. And then we want to break out early, so we will just return -1. But we have to first SDL quit to make sure that all works. Okay, now let's initialize our renderer. So we will do SDL renderer pointer equals SDL create renderer. This will require that we have our window pointer here, and then our index. Don't worry about this too much. This is more like reading into SDL2 documentation. I'm going to put -1 here, so it just picks the first one, and then 0 for the flags, because I don't want any additional flags. Again, some more error handling. If the renderer pointer does not exist, then we will SDL destroy our window, so window pointer, and then we will SDL quit, and then we will return -1. Okay. Now we're just going to create a simple game loop, so bool running equals true, and we'll just say while running. And then we want to do two things. We need to make sure that we pull events so we can check when the user wants to quit, and then we need to just clear the screen to make sure that's all working. So I will just create an open SDL event variable, so SDL event E, and then I will run a while SDL pull event, and I'm going to reference E here, and then we'll just say if E.type equals SDL quits. That means that a quit request was requested. That's not English. And then I will just say run equals false if that's true. And then at the bottom here, that will just basically break us out of this while loop. So we will then run SDL destroy renderer and destroy our renderer. SDL destroy window, and we'll destroy our window. And then SDL quit, and we will quit. And then let's go ahead and just draw to the screen. So SDL set render draw color, and we need our renderer pointer, and then we need our draw color. I'm going to make a nice sky color, so 120, 180, 255, 255, that's RGBA. And then we need to do SDL render clear here to actually clear the screen, and then SDL render present will render anything present that we have rendered here, which is a lot of renders in one sentence. I went extremely fast for that because this isn't really an SDL tutorial, it's more of like how to set it up, but let's go ahead and go over it. If we don't, we first initialize SDL. If it doesn't work, we return -1. We immediately leave. Then we try to make a window pointer. If it doesn't work, we quit and then we leave. Then we create our renderer, which is what we use to render things in SDL. If it doesn't exist, then we destroy our window and we quit SDL and then we leave. Then we set a while loop, which is just going until running is false. Then we pull our events, basically grabbing all the events of the current frame, like mouse clicks, key presses, all that sort of stuff. If the user wants to close the window, then we will set running to false. This will immediately break us out of the while loop, destroy the render, destroy the window, and then quit. And every frame we are clearing to the screen a light blue. Let's go ahead and make sure this works. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run make here. And then I'm going to cd into our build directory and I'm going to run /project.exe, which is the name of my project.exe. This will open up here and you can see that we have a window titled what we called it, which is just window. And I have a nice little sky color here. You'll also notice that your exe is located in this build folder, which is really cool. You can open it in a file explorer, double click on it here. And look at that, you have like an actual real project. It's really cool stuff. That was a lot of information all at once. Let's go ahead and implement ImGui. So the way that ImGui is implemented is a little bit interesting. We can actually just bake it into the project itself using the source files and the header files. So let's go ahead and do that. So the way that you want to do this is you want to actually look up ImGui here. So I'm going to look up ImGui and just go over here. And then you can pick the branch you want. You can do master, you can do docking. Docking is really popular. I just did master because it's the main one. Just go ahead and download it as a zip. And then you want to open up your zip folder's location here, and you want to extract it. So just hover over and extract it. You should have this ImGui master folder that is resulted. Go ahead and open this up, and you have a ton of stuff, very overwhelming. What are we gonna do? Well, all the stuff in this like main directory here that you're first greeted with, you just sort it. So you have CPP files and you have header source files. All the CPP files go inside of that ImGui folder that we created. So highlight that, hold control to highlight multiple at a time, take all these CPP folders or files, make sure you got all of them, and then just drag and drop them into your ImGui folder. Next thing to do is grab all of your header files and make sure you got all of them here. Just grab them in here and then just drag and drop them into your include folder. I would recommend creating a directory here, a subdirectory of include, and just call it like ImGui here, just for organizational purposes. It is totally optional though. So I'm just going to drag and drop them in here. And now we have all of our header files inside of our include folder in a subdirectory of ImGui. Okay, so that's it that we need to actually use ImGui or to actually set it up. But there is one more thing if we want to use it with SDL2. We have to use these backends. And what do these backends do? They basically allow us to use it with these desired APIs, so like OpenGL, DirectX, SFML, and SDL for this example. There's two things that we want. We want to implement SDL2 and the SDL2 renderer. So for this, we're going to look for ImGui implement SDL2, and there is a corresponding header file and a CPP file for them. So I'm going to grab the CPP file, drag and drop it into the ImGui folder. I'm going to go to the header file of that, and I'm just going to drag and drop that into the ImGui folder of the include folder. And then we're going to find ImGui implement SDL renderer 2, drag and drop the CPP file into our folder here, and drag and drop the header file into our ImGui folder inside of our include folder. Hopefully that makes sense. It's basically a game of just sorting. That's all we really do. It should be 4 files total from that backend. Next thing we need to do is get some imports going on here. I'm just going to include everything up here. So I'm just going to go up here, and before SDL, I'm going to do include. I'm going to include the ImGui itself. Then I'm going to include ImGui implement SDL2. Then I'm going to include ImGui implement SDL2 renderer, and that should be good. Now, on the topic of includes, we have to make sure that we edit our include directories here. Now that we have a new folder inside of our include, let's go ahead and specify it. So -I, and I'm going to add include/ImGui. This will make sure that we look in this folder for our necessary includes. Okay, so let's go ahead and now use this. So the way that we do this is we're going to do it like between here. After we have initialized SDL and our window and our renderer, we are going to init ImGui. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do ImGui check version, and this is just going to check the version that we need. I don't really know, to be honest. I'm not a major expert, but this is the beginner code for it. Then we're going to create a context. So we're going to do ImGui create context. So we're going to create an ImGui IO, and this this little line here is weird for me because it gives me an error in VS Code, no matter what compiler I'm trying to use, but it compiles perfectly fine, and it does not give me an error whenever I use it in NeoVim. So I'm not too sure why it is. If you know, please explain. It'd be awesome. Then we just want to throw on this colon, or this parentheses void, and then we want to put IO here. Do I know why? No, I really don't. I'm sorry, but this will work. It's a little weird, but it will work. Okay, next thing to do is to initialize our renderer and to initialize our SDL in general. So what we need to do is we need to call ImGui implement SDL2, and then it's init for SDL renderer. And this is going to take in the window and the renderer. So we're going to do window pointer and we're going to do our renderer pointer. Next thing to do is to do ImGui, and then we need to do implement SDL2 or SDL renderer2 init. And this will just take in our renderer pointer. Now, there are some very specific order of operations here. So let's go ahead and get that working. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we close ImGui. So I'm going to put ImGui implement SDL renderer 2 shutdown. It's a long one for sure. They have some very long names. And then we're going to just do ImGui implement SDL2 shutdown. And then we're just going to do ImGui : destroy context. Very long-winded, but that will shut down ImGui. Okay, so now we want to make a simple frame in this application. And the way we can do that is use just regular ImGui begin and end stuff. So the first thing we got to do is we got to do ImGui implement SDL renderer new frame. And then we have to do ImGui implement SDL2 new frame. And this will take in our window pointer. And then we need to just do ImGui new frame here. And then we can just do, let's say ImGui begin. And this will be the name of it. So I'll just do test. And then I'm just going to throw in a text thing here to make sure it works. So ImGui text. And I'm going to say, hello world. And then I'm going to call ImGui end here. And that works perfectly fine here. Next thing we need to do is we need to actually render it. So I'm going to do ImGui and not do that. I'm going to do ImGui here, : render. Awesome stuff. So now we have to actually get this on the screen though. So this is where it gets a little bit weird. We have to draw it after we clear the screen, before we render present, which is how you render all of your stuff on the screen with SDL. So somewhere here. Now, is this required? No, we don't have to clear the screen here. And I can actually show you what it will look like when we don't, but I'm going to just show you this first. So what we need to do is we need to do ImGui implement SDL renderer 2, and then we need to do our render draw data. And then what we need to do is here is do ImGui : and then do get draw data here. And it will give this weird warning on VS Code. If you know why this is happening, let me know. But that will work. So this is how you set things up. I'm going to basically go control tilde here, and I will run our make file. I'm only using the -c ... to go back a directory because I'm currently in our build folder. Just a little convenience thing here. And now I'm going to run our project. And as you can see, we have SDL here. Now the problem is that we can't touch anything, and the reason is because I haven't done the event processing. The way to do that is literally just go in wherever you're pulling events here, and you just do ImGui implement ImGui implement SDL2 process events, and then give it a reference to the event, and it will process the events there perfectly fine. We then run make c ... or ... because I'm inside the build folder. Run the project, and we can move things around. Very cool stuff. Awesome, amazing. Let's go ahead and render something from SDL onto an ImGui window. The way we do that is we have to create a render target. And the way we do that is just create a texture and then draw onto it. So I'm going to do that right here, right after I create the renderer. So I'm going to create a render target here. Okay. And here is how we're going to do it. So I'll just create a XDL texture, and this will just be our texture here. And this will be SDL create texture. And now here, there's a ton of different options or a ton of different commands. So render pointer, The format is going to be STL pixel format, and you can just pick whichever one you want. I'm just going to do RGBA 888. Why not? Next thing is the int access, which is going to be SDL. I think it's render target here. SDL renderer target texture. Okay. Then we need the width and the height of the texture. This is going to be like the target width and height, basically. I'm going to make mine 300 by 200. Okay. Now, how do we actually draw to it? So let's actually draw on the texture. The way we do that is we do SDL set render target, and then we need to pass in the renderer pointer and our texture, and then we just actually use it. So I'm going to do SDL set render draw color, and I'm going to just pass in the renderer pointer, and I'm going to make it red. Why not? And then we just do SDL clear, or SDL render clear, sorry. And this is going to just take in our render pointer, and then to basically stop using our render target, all we do is we do SDL set render target and pass in our renderer pointer and pass in null for the render, or for the target. So now we have a texture that is filled with red. Now how do we use it? Well, it's actually really, really simple. All we do is we can just do like a little ImGui begin here. I'm just going to call this our image. I'm going to do an ImGui image, and then it takes in an ImTexture 2D, and we can literally just typecast our stuff. So we're going to do ImTexture our ID, and then we can just typecast our texture. So I'm just going to put texture here. And then for the size, we can just create a new ImVec2. So ImVec2, and it does have a constructor here. So I'm just going to make this, let's see, I'm going to just make it its native size. So 300, 200. And then I'll just do ImGui end here. And that will draw an image. And now, of course, before we do anything, we have to destroy our texture. So SDL destroy texture. SDL destroy texture. And we need to destroy that texture. Okay, so now let's run our make file here. And we just run our project. We have attempted to create an image, but we haven't actually gotten the red color here. And I'm honestly not sure why. Let me go check real quick. But you do see that there is an image result. Okay, I do know why. It's because this should be, whenever we create a texture, it should be SDL texture axis target. This will make it so that we can use it as a render target. Now let's actually remake this file, or recompile our program, and then run our project. And there's our window. Awesome stuff. Let's go ahead and quickly just draw an image on the screen. Now, for some reason, SDL does not come in with a built-in like image loading system, probably to keep it lean for people that just want to use it for windowing. So let's go ahead and do it. All we can do is just give a quick little image search, or a quick little Google search to SDL2 image here. This will provide a SDL2 wiki link here, which we can go to the GitHub here. We have SDL2 image. Go ahead and download the same version, the ImGW, if you're following along with me. Otherwise, set it up how you want to set it up. Find your SDL2 image and extract it to a folder, then go inside that and go inside the subfolder. Same deal here with the x86_64 for the 64-bit. Then it's the exact same process here. Bin, drag and drop it into build, include, drag and drop, go inside of SDL2 and drag and drop all of that inside of the SDL2 folder we have. Lib, same deal. Highlight all of the static library files, drag and drop them in lib. Amazing stuff. Go up here to the top and just go ahead and include our SDL2 image.h. So image, or SDL image.h here. Go ahead and include it. And now let's go ahead and try to compile this. Now the first thing we have to do is inside of our makefile, we add a -l and we add SDL2 underscore image. So we're using that static library file. Now let's go ahead and load in some random PNG that we want. So I'm going to load it in here. I'm going to load an image. I'm going to do SDL surface, and this is going to be our surf equals image load. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to make a folder for mine, assets player static here is what it's called, so .png. So of course, if we want to use this, we actually need this to be there. So let's go ahead and drag and drop it in there. I have a player static here. I'm going to create an assets folder inside of my build folder, because whenever you run an application, it is relative to whatever folder you are in. Now I can drag and drop this player static into this assets folder here, and it is there perfectly fine. There we go. And this will work perfectly fine. Now we need to convert this to an SDL texture. So we'll do SDL texture, texture, and then we'll call it like player texture, I guess. So p texture equals, and then we need to do SDL create texture from surface. Give it our renderer, give it our surface, after that, we can then SDL free our surface. So SDL free surface here, send it our surface. And now we can draw this onto our render target. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'll just, after we clear the render target, I'm just going to do SDL render copy. And this is going to take in the renderer pointer. It's going to take in our player texture, and it's going to take in a source rect and a destination rect. For the source rect, I'm just going to make it null. And for the destination rect, I'll just throw one in real quick here. So I'll just make mine 100, 100. No. I'll do 50, 50, 100, 200. Okay. Again, I'll do null for the source rect, and then I'll reference our destination rect for the destination of this. Okay. Now this, in theory, should be working perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and recompile it. Then we'll run our project. Awesome. We now have SDL render target here working perfectly fine inside of our ImGui frame. It's a little bit off screen, but that's because I suck at coordinates. And then rendering just anywhere is very simple. Before here, like this will render behind ImGui, and this will render in front of ImGui. So anything you want to render will be right here. So I'm just going to create a simple dummy rect here value. Let's call this our direct here. I'm going to make this 100, 100, 100, 200. And then I'm just going to do SDL render copy here, and I will render it with our render pointer. And I will render it with our player texture again. I will say null for the source, so it just does the whole thing. And then reference our destination rectangle here. And I will do the same thing here, but I will move it a little bit so we can actually see that they're different. So I'm going to do direct.x plus equals 200, why not? Recompile. Amazing, we now have them rendered like that. Awesome, cool stuff. This looks like our example from earlier, except I'm worse at coordinates. But there you go, cool stuff. Last thing you might want to do is, draw to your render target a lot. So I'm just going to say, if you want to do that, just go ahead and render to your texture first. Then you have to convert it to the ImGui image inside of here, the ImTexture ID here. And so just do it first, then throw it in this image, and you should be fine. I'm going to make a quick little example. So like if e.type equals SDL key down and e.key.keysim.sim equals SDL K space, why not? Space, not actually press space. Now we'll just do this. I'll just do SDL set render target, and this will be our renderer pointer, and then it's going to be our texture that we want. And I'm going to preemptively set our render target back. Oops, set render target to nothing. So we're just rendering normally. And then here, I will say that if this happens, I will set the render draw color to green, why not? So 0, 0, or 255, 0, 255. And then I will do SDL clear, or render clear, render pointer. Cool. This should basically, our image should change from the red with the player on it to green if I press space. So let's go ahead and see if that works. We have our original thing here. I'm going to go ahead and press space. Awesome. Look, it immediately updates like exactly the same millisecond that I press it. So that's it. That's pretty much it. If you have any more questions or anything like you want to know how to do with this, let me know. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you found this enjoyable. Hopefully this wasn't too sporadic. It is a pretty long-winded, tutorial here. But thanks for watching. Have a good day. See ya.